I had a weird sort of poetic, mystical experience today, and I don't really have anyone to tell about it, so I thought I'd
Oh,
share it with you guys.
yeah, that's awesome.
And
We
it's
love
sort
it.
of aligned with what you guys have been talking about. Um,
And he's basically saying that, meaning is, in a sense, subjective because it's going to, like he actually tells people your meaning might be superior to mine when it comes to his stories. Because they're like, well, how am I supposed to know what you mean by this? Shouldn't I know? And he says, I'm not going to sit up and bark for my dog. Right. So anyway, so like fairy tales tell the truth slant, right? That's a fairy tale. Parables, poetry, and all the rest of that. Hi, Sam.
like seeing images and seeing that images have multiple layers of meaning, and that meaning might be sort of slant, and being able to perceive into the meaning of it. And this was sort of a weirdly very personal thing, and I'm still sort of making sense of it, but I just thought I'd share. Maybe you have some insight. So I'm between jobs, and it's been a struggle, and whatever, 6 months looking for work. And we had a pretty promising interview happen Monday, and yesterday, or 2 weeks ago, basically, and yesterday I found out it didn't go through. So that's been challenging, and of course it's a time to reflect on identity and who I am and all of that as well. And I also happen to be privileged to help teach at a classical Christian co-op. So we talk a lot about fairy tales and stuff like that too. And this morning while I was teaching, I was tasked with doing some copying, and I had 2 sheets of paper that I was supposed to copy. And I went over to the copier, and there was a 3rd sheet of paper that slipped out between them. And I thought, oh, okay, well, I'll just copy this one too, just in case. As soon as I saw the paper, though, I knew, I was like, this is an image for me. And I confirmed, I went back to the teacher who asked me to copy the paper. She said, I have no idea what that paper's about. I was like, this image that came out was exactly for me in this time. And it was so, I wouldn't have been able to like pinpoint the fact that I had sort of a mystical experience had I not gone to certain like Orthodox settings where I've seen like certain icons with like myrrh-bearing icons and stuff like that, and be like, oh, because my modern brain would have just been like, this isn't real, it's just a weird coincidence. But it was like too much. So the image was this thing.
Wow.
And yeah.
Wow.
And obviously there's a lot that could be happening here. But I sort of was reading it as I'm this, I saw myself as the dragon in a way. Did I freeze? I'm seeing myself.
You froze a little bit.
You froze in a perfect place, though. We can see the dragon perfectly.
Okay, great.
Wow.
Great.
Another miracle. We're racking them up, folks. We're racking them up.
It's another day. It's another for the list.
The dragon is standing in essentially like a chaos sea, and he's just on some ground, and he's holding like a crystal ball and looking into it. Yeah. And he's smiling. He's smiling, and he's sort of happy, content. Okay, I gotta turn that setting off. It was just like this really strong feeling of like, oh my goodness, this is who I am. Maybe at this time, I don't know if it's like a permanent identity thing, but it's this feeling of like being able to navigate a lot of the like strange complexities of the world, and looking into I'm a futurist, trying to make sense of what's going on with the Western culture, and paying attention to King's North and all these folks saying civilization is dying around us. And as I'm looking into that future, it's like I'm also sort of you talked about trickster there. I enjoy a laugh.
Jokes are often, things that twist meaning. They're inversions. They are kind of parodies on meaning, and they have their place, let's say, at the end of the day in the moment of rest. But you just have, the problem with us is that we're just drowning in it. I mean, that's the problem.
This is actually very important, because this is it's kind of what magic is about. Okay, it's like you create a narrative. Like if you would look at him in a certain way, a different way, maybe, is called the renewal. He's like making them look at it from different perspectives. Okay, this is like the wheel of perspectives. You know, when it says the wheel with many eyes in it, that's what it means. It means like you can see the world through different ideas. Okay, so this is the role of Eve. You do this thing right here. It's her own thing that she does, not when she's listening to Adam.
Oh, I'm not remembering the Hebrew right now, but the Hebrew word in Genesis for Eve, for wife, is there? It indicates that kind of
the renewal.
And that sort of winding, twisting serpent thing, I think that makes sense. And I also happen to be in a very like liminal space right now, being very hybrid. I'm basically an Orthodox person, but I'm in a Protestant setting, and that just means I have all kinds of liminal experiences, and sort of this hybridity going on in my life. But I really just like the fact that he's smiling and sort of laughing about the future's coming, and the seeds of the future are being planted now, and it's something to be in trusting gratitude for what's coming, and that I'm in the right spot right now. Because I think the main kind of struggle for me is, do I try and keep on becoming a servant to the corporatist imperialist?
We do Iraq, we do Afghanistan, and like we try to violently impose freedom on foreign peoples. Bizarre idea. Instead of like creating the example for others to follow, we tried to impose our ideals on others.
Imperialist, transnational, globalist sort of agenda of, if I could make some sweet cash working a corporate job and pay for the fam, I mean, isn't that the good life? And I think something about this image says, maybe not. So, but I don't really know what it means in terms of vocation, but it just felt really resonant.
All right, Sam. Well, as soon as you showed me that, I thought of this, and I'm going to show it. I'm going to show you a clip that Jonathan Demir made. I can't remember exactly what it says, but I just found it, and you're talking. You open it. You open the clip, and I'm like, okay, now I'm really pumped to find out what this clip is about. I watched it a while ago, but I can't remember exactly what it says. Can you guys see it?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. I'm on that. Okay.
Yeah, you're on it. Okay, here we go. Let's just let her rip.
Be for good, or can things be redeemed in that way? And it just reminded me of the whole concept of the swords being beaten into plowshares, the spears being turned into pruning hooks.
In verse 4, he shall judge between the nations and shall decide disputes for many peoples. A king is coming. And they shall beat their swords into plowshares and their spears into pruning hooks. Nation shall not lift up sword against nation, neither shall they learn war anymore. And those are the words that are on the building of the United Nations building in New York.
Sort of this eschatological vision of, it is a technology that, I mean, this is nuclear energy, this is dynamite, there's like, it kind of lives in this balance of, I wouldn't know if it's always neutral space, but it's like, it can be used for good or for evil. It can, and being the kind of people who can rightly handle it, who can transform it into something that is ultimately redemptive and contributes to the well-ordered cosmos, I think is the aim,
Yeah.
Even it's like, even like idea of like perception and what can you even see
with the AI. I think it'll be the third AI that might pull through.
It's like it's too early. We're not mature enough to handle it. Like maybe there's demonic forces, maybe there's some sort of spiritual beings that are giving that are helping us get access to things. It's like giving a child a chainsaw. It's like, hey, this is a cool technology. Hopefully you cut your arm off with it, is what the demons are thinking. But eventually the child is able to mature and handle it well, and now they can do good things with it. And so I think every generation faces the challenge of how do we tame this technological force that is now in the world. And that's, I mean, I think that's, we talked before, maybe, I don't know who has mentioned, but like, what's it look like to be a saint in the technological age or the internet age? What does it look like to use these things rightly? My kind of example in literature of this is Aragorn. So he sees the Palantir. Well, so first of all, you get Pippin, well, big picture. So Sauron has a Palantir, and he's corrupted through it by accessing Sauron. You do all kinds of amazing things in it. He thinks he's going to rule the world and bring it under his control, but of course Sauron, the dark force, is too strong for him. And then you've got Denethor, who goes crazy. He's got access to the Palantir, and it makes him go mad. Pippin touches it and gets very injured. He's like wounded on a deep soul level. And Gandalf is like, I'm not even gonna touch this thing. Like, he covers it. Don't let me near. I don't want to even touch this. But Aragorn, of course, he uses the hands of the king, or the hands of healing. He's able to actually heal Pippin, and then he's also able to take the stone and become the master of the stone, because by wrestling, of course, with the Dark Lord and revealing himself, even that, he's using it in a way that's like even a little bit tricky. Like, it's not, he's deceiving the Dark Lord in a way. So he's able to master that by his, his years and years of maturity and faithfulness and manly sort of integrity and all of these things. Yeah, that's kind of, I think, maybe the literary example of what it looks like in the.
Yeah, I really like that, because Sauron and his armies are Saruman, this vast technological beastly force. I think we're all a lot like Pippin, just
exactly
the way we all. Here we are staring through our mirrored stones. Speaking.
All right, I'm just going to leave it at that. Did that speak to you at all?
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly another. Yeah.
No.
Yeah. Sam, too, what I was thinking of when you the very first brought the picture up, the first thing that came to mind for me was Behemoth from the Book of Job, right? We have that explanation of Behemoth where, he's, behold now Behemoth, which I made thee. He eateth grass as an ox. Lo now, his strength is in his loins, and his force is in the navel of his belly. He moveth his tail like a cedar. The sinews of his stones are wrapped together. His bones are as strong as pieces of brass. His bones are like bars of iron. He is the chief of the ways of God. He that made him can make his sword to approach unto him. Which reminded me of the Palantir where he's holding the sword up to Sauron going,
And, the killer
here I am, bro. Come get me, right? Like, I'm ready. Let's do this.
Sam, the killer thing is, all I could think of was the scene with Aragorn, right? Or Aragorn, and I didn't know you were in there, and it's you. My whole plot.
I do forget how much I love Owen. And when Jonathan just cut to Owen, just like chilled as fuck, just laying back, just saying, I think it's going to be the third AI. And it's just like, it's very prescient, but it's like, it's so like, if you don't know him, you'd think it was just some high thought. But it made me think too, how do you deceive a deceiver, right? Because that's what Aragorn is trying to do. That's what Christ is doing on the cross, right? He's conquering death by death.
Jesus does it, really. He says, like, let's say Jesus says you have to be poor, right? This is a very different perspective than what we're used to.
And the only way that you can deceive the father of lies is not by lying, and it's not even by saying the truth. I mean, that is one way, but you can't deceive him by saying the truth. He knows the truth. But you can deceive him by silence. And that's what Aragorn doesn't say, I've got the ring, come get me. He just shows himself.
Yeah, but he holds up the sword too, right? Like,
right? Yeah.
Yeah. I wanted to ask Sam, like, what's the difference between Pippin and Aragorn in that scene?
Yeah,
It's
I think
wisdom.
Wisdom that comes with
I have it
maturity.
on good authority that he is called a fool of a took for that very action.
Interesting.
Um,
Yeah, I don't know if that helped you at all, but that's the first thing that came to my mind.
That sword into plowshare inversion helped solve a little riddle for me, because I was the image that came up for me in seeing the image was because it's the dragon in the sea. My mind immediately went to the dragon will be thrown into the sea. And I was kind of like, no, Sam, don't relate to the dragon. It'll be thrown into the sea. You'll be thrown into the sea. But it turned around when you talked about him smiling.
And, you know, it's apropos this podcast. This is what a saint does. A saint can handle a Palantir, right? Are you still there?
yeah, I'm here. My phone, I'm going to switch from my phone.
What I was thinking of was Archangel Michael as well, right?
Nice.
Standing on ground, holding a ball. You see
is
that
that?
a lot. It's a cross.
But it's
And
a ball.
It's a ball, and it's you see this a lot with the archangels. Here's another one where they're holding it's
world.
like a sign of their principality. It's like a symbol of their principality.
Right.
It's a sphere of influence.
There you go.
There you go. Nice one, Nico.
Oh.
The Palantir and the crystal ball in your image. And you even said it. It's the future. Right? It's being able to see into something that is unknown to us and remains unknown to us.
They just reflect what's going on.
Here's some dumb advice. You should see if the company Palantir is hiring.
Kill the beast with the beast.
Yeah, exactly.
So my friend makes he makes videos using AI about he retells stories from the Bible using AI imagery and AI music and everything like that. And he's like, yeah, I'm gonna destroy the machine with the machine, man. I'm gonna use the machine to destroy the machine.
There are some swords that should just be burnt.
Yeah. Right. Some rings
That's
just
good.
need to go into the fire of Mordor.
Oh yeah, maybe that's is AI the ring, or is it is it a sword that can be turned into a plowshare? Interesting. Yeah.
I feel like this image though is about discernment. It's about that thing, because you could very easily see this as like the demon. Like you could see this as a Satan, like a demon. It wouldn't be that hard.
Sure.
A serpent. Well, that's right.
Yeah.
Is it the serpent lifted up? That's
That whole
and Behemoth,
slippery
right?
thing.
Like
Right.
Christ speaks pretty highly of Behemoth. Like he's just like
And
it's the
Leviathan.
beast, and I made it.
Yeah.
So
God speaks highly of Leviathan and he lets him get away at the end of the book of Job. So
right.
This idea where it's like I posted that conversation with Mr. Neil Daedalus a while ago called The Good Artifacts. And the whole idea was that God created this being with almost like a function, like how in the book of Job it says behold Leviathan in all of his
and like in McGilchrist's terms, without opposition, we do not become. There's no becoming without that opposition, right?
This is the role of Eve. You do this thing right here.
The Hebrew word in Genesis for Eve, for wife, indicates that kind of helpful opposition.
Yes. Yeah. So anyway, that's just one of my little pet things. I guess the reason that it rubbed me the wrong way, the way he wrote the book, is that he's saying the right hemisphere should be the master and the left hemisphere should be the emissary, rather than looking at it as they are meant to be in a beneficial opposition in order to bring about something greater than either one could produce on their own, which sounds more to me like a marriage than...
That idea was, you know, fantastic and worthy of celebration. Yeah, that makes sense how that maps on. And, you know,
Yeah. Yeah. You know, somehow we have to stop running away and being afraid and, you know, maybe turning and facing kind of things.
I was going to mention the spheres thing because of Peugeot. He's been going off about the Jack and the Beanstalk story and how at the end, the whole thing is he gets the music of the spheres. He sees not just he doesn't have gold, he doesn't have the way to get gold. He has the thing which sort of gives you the pattern of reality itself, which is better than all of that. Yeah, I really don't know. I don't know if it's good to be like a dragon. Probably not. Like, you should probably just assume probably not. But then
Joseph said to me one time, because I was often calling Leviathan chaos, and he didn't like that. And he said, you know, we call the really good rabbis, like from ancient times even, radical, like they've radically brought insight into things. We call them Leviathan, right? And I said, yeah, but if you're bringing radical insight, you're bringing, you know, there's going to be some chaos, right? Like, and what's interesting about chaos, as we as Christians, you know, understand it, is that is what God creates out of, right?
Yes.
So there is no creation without chaos.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Right.
He's in the flood, right? There's a flood. He's in the flood.
Right.
But he's on solid ground in the flood. So just
yeah.
pray.
Like the fact that he's smiling and sort of laughing